What's going on, guys? Today's video is a little different than most because we are going to be doing some city planning. So I've got a bunch of ideas I wanted to talk through. Now, usually I film my videos on a tripod and then I go back and I add the audio afterwards. But today I've got my portable mic, I've got my gimbal, so we can do this all handheld and hopefully it won't be too shaky. So we're going to talk through mostly this area, a little bit of this area, and then we'll also touch on this kind of center section as well. Throughout the video though, guys, if you have any ideas or feedback or anything you think I should be doing differently, how buildings should be oriented, that kind of stuff, definitely drop a comment down below. I am super curious to get your guys' input because I've got some ideas, but I always like hearing what you guys have to say. So that being said, let's get into it. All right, so when I'm doing my city planning, first I like to figure out what my challenges are. So I want to talk through some of these. So first off, one of the things I have to consider is that this side of the table, this whole kind of section right there, eventually my goal is to make it like Portofino. So if you can see that far right corner, it's kind of a big, sort of a hill, cliff, you know, type thing on the water. I want that to be like right there. And I want to do a really, really big hotel, multiple levels, and I need some elevation. So it's going to be a little bit taller than this mountain here. So what I've got to think about is, whatever I do here, I've got to start stepping up and getting some elevation fairly quickly. So as I'm working on my buildings and kind of how I place things, that's something I have to take into consideration. So then my other challenge is time. My goal is to take this setup to BrickCon here in mid-September. So it's going to be these two buildings, the water section, this little mountain, and then my goal is to not go any further back than this base plate. It'll probably end up being like a little bit of an L because I'm not gonna have time to fill all this in, and that's okay. I'm not worried about that, but I've just gotta be kind of cognizant about what I plan. You know, at the end of the day, if I don't make it to BrickCon, that's okay. It's all about getting the right build and a quality product, but I'd like to take it. So I'm just trying to think of how I can phase this build so that I don't create a ton of work for myself that ultimately isn't achievable. All right, so before we jump into the specific builds that I'm planning here and some of my ideas, I just want to talk high level of what my vision is. So the goal here is really Amalfi Coast, and that's going to be slightly larger building footprints because as I was working on the hill section recently, I'm sure you guys saw those videos, they were really small footprints and it was super fun, but I really enjoyed working on these two because they're much bigger, it allows for more detail, and just to kind of do a slightly larger scale. So bigger buildings, each building is going to be focused on an individual color. Sort of like this one you can see is light nougat. This one started out as all dark orange and that's kind of morphed into dark orange and medium nougat. But the goal is that this building right here will be dark red. This one will be nougat. And then the one in the back, I think I'm actually gonna do a little bit of a combo with sand red and bright light yellow. I'm just gonna do a little bit of the yellow because I think just too much of that color is too much. Like you can see on my second section of the hill section, or third section I should say, that bright yellow building looks really good, but I do think that it's a lot of yellow and I just don't want it to be overpowering. All right, so now I'm gonna place down the kind of first draft of the building that's gonna go here, and we're gonna talk about sort of the placement, the dimensions, how it's all gonna flow together, because I'm not exactly sure how I want it all to sit. You can see it is by no means finished. In fact, it's a little precarious, so let's hope it doesn't break. Now, obviously one of those sides is not fully supported, so it's not gonna be crooked like that. But the idea is that it's gonna be based off this real life building from Cinque Terre, and I really wanted to use dark red. I just wanted something large and impactful. These buildings are pretty light, and so I wanted something that was gonna be nice dark weight along the lineup. One of the things I've got to figure out though is I want it pulled up close to the water so that the ground floor restaurant can feel like, you know, it's connected to what's going to be this outdoor seating here. The issue is this though, as I was talking about earlier, I need to build some elevation, which means I'm going to put some stairs right here, and I've got to figure out how this building will sit with all that, because what I don't want is I don't want this side of this face of the building to get covered up and kind of tucked in from view. So I got to figure that out. So I'm not sure if I'll pull that back because then, as we're going to talk about in a minute, I've got two buildings I'm going to be placing here, and I got to make sure that everything has enough flow and enough space. So let's go ahead and talk about these two buildings. All right, so I've built just kind of the base for this building. And again, I use these little support pieces, yikes, to help me understand kind of the height and how I want things to fit. So highly recommend using those if you're just trying to mock some things up and get a sense of scale and dimension. They're really useful, but the goal here is that this building is gonna sit flush with this little walkway so that you can kind of go back and forth between the two. This is gonna be my Nougat building. I'm really excited about the angle and how it's kind of driving the eye towards the back of the build. So now I've got to figure out what I'm gonna put behind it. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I was gonna do another angled building back here, but I don't think I'm going to because I think it's just gonna be too much work. And honestly, angles are great, but they are a ton of work. So I think this is generally what I'm gonna be doing. And obviously this is all just kind of high level and I'm just kind of placing things around. So as we finish out these buildings, we'll get a better sense. But the idea is that there's gonna be a large staircase in between these two buildings. So going kind of right here. And it's gonna connect into that platform back there. It's gonna allow me to do a nice sand red building with kind of a bright yellow sort of cutout or little section. And then it'll come down into this nice little piazza. I've got a really cool idea for the tile design. What we're gonna do is similar to what we did over here, except what's light gray will be white, what's dark gray will be light gray. And I think that's gonna look really nice. It's gonna kind of be like a wave feel, which will feel good, nice. Feel good, nice, which will look nice against the water. So I'm really excited about that. Now, a couple other fun ideas I've got is I'm gonna be putting string lights probably across this little area right here. Just again, big piazza, bunch of outdoor seating and tables. I wanna activate it. I might even do like a fountain. I'm not sure, maybe put some lights in it. One thing you guys might have seen if you saw my Instagram, and I'll post a video of this at the end or put a video of this at the end, is these string lights in the trees from Light My Bricks. They look so cool at night. So I'll turn the lights off here in a minute and show you guys, but it adds such a nice ambiance, such a level of detail, and I'm really, really pleased with how it turned out. So really, really excited to use that here. So briefly looking at this center section of the city and kind of with that, the underside of that little platform right there, I'm not exactly sure what to do. Obviously, I'm gonna have some elevated section. I'd like to have some buildings and some curved stairways. What I've gotta be careful of though, is that since I've already got buildings right here with that little tan archway and the brown building, I've gotta make sure I keep enough separation so that I can still see it. I don't wanna lose the view corridor. So if you guys have ideas, let me know. I think what I want though, is I want like a hill right behind that fountain. So that way when you walk into the Lego room and this is kind of your view, I think that'd be pretty impressive and kind of step it up into some elevation. So I think that would be really, really nice. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know what you guys think. If you guys have ideas, if you think that I should be doing something different, if you think the building should be a different configuration, I'm especially looking for ideas of kind of what to do like in this back corner. I may not do anything, at least before BrickCon, but eventually, obviously, I'm gonna do it. The other big thing I'm looking for help on, guys, is what to do here. I gotta figure out how to get elevation up, whether I do stairs, a walkway, should I do like a retaining wall on this side of the mountain? Should I do more rock work? Should I push this red building back a little bit so that the space between these two isn't as wide? That being said, I don't wanna lose my view corridors. Sometimes if it's a narrow alley, you just end up losing sight of the build. This red build is gonna be four-sided, at least for BrickCon. That may change eventually once I add stuff in over here. Because it's just to make it covered up, but we'll see. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video and we'll see you next time.